Hello and welcome back to another daily cribbage. See who we get today. It's Mark. And we cut a 4 and we tie. So we cut again, get another 4 for the dealer, which is really nice. Then we got double ace, double 7, which is a nice 8 points. We do have to split the 8 aces from the 4, but that's okay. Oh, let me jump up to a lot more points. Is that 20 points? No, it's probably like 12 or 12 points. And we'll keep these 2 aces. And for some reason I thought we had only got up to 17. Anyway, double 8, double king for our opponents, just 5 points. We get 14 points. Why is it 14 points? It's because we've got 6 for the triple ace, we've got 6 for 15s, and we've got a pair of 7s. Okay, we look down at 7, 8, 9, and we can keep it with a 3 or a 4. There is a flush in our hand, but I don't like the flush so much. I think I'm going to keep it with the 4 because it gives us a nice way to start. Let's get to lead this 4, and if it gets paired, we can jump up with the 7. And here, I don't want to play the 7, so I'm just going to go with the 8, and hopefully our opponent doesn't have a 9. No, they just have the 5. So 5, 10, very natural start. They don't have a 9, because they would have played it otherwise. And hopefully not another 5. No extra 5 for our opponent, so they just have 9 points. And see what they got in the crib. Nothing there. No flushes. Triple 6, 9. Alright, so this is a good 12-point hand, and it allows us to throw away the 5. We're not desperate to try and cut a 4, so don't need to keep the 5 in our hand. And for maximum playability, I think we can play a 6 here. Our hand is a complete rainbow, so it doesn't matter which one. We'll play out the 9. Because we expect our opponent has a 3. If they have an ace as well, then we get 2 points for the pair and 1 for finishing. So we don't mind them taking a point there if they had the 3-2 ace. But instead they just had the 3-2 pair of kings, and everything is going our way. We've got a nice long run here, 7 to 10. No reason not to keep that. I guess the second best option there is probably to throw away 10 queen and hope that the 4 is more useful. We'll start out with either a 7 or an 8. I think I'll start with the 7. It's always hard to know, I think, in these situations what's the best card to start off with. Often, okay, we expect our opponent has 8s here, so I'm going to play the 9. And, well, they've shown us double 7, 2, so we would have expected a 6, but they didn't have one because they would have played that on our 9. And yeah, 10 points in the crib. Looks like our opponent is trying very hard to catch up. Okay, 6, 9, 10 jack looks good. We don't need to keep the 7 around too much. It would be good to cut an 8 if we had kept the 7, but that's not guaranteed. Instead we get a queen, which is really nice. So it extends our run and helps us potentially in the crib if our opponent's thrown away a jack. But with an opponent playing double 4, I think it's unlikely that our opponent has jacks here. They don't have an ace, so maybe it's like 4, 4, 5, 6. No, 4, 4, 7, 7 maybe? No, 4, 4, 5, 7 is only 6 points, sorry. There's 4, 4, 7 for 15. And we do get a couple of points in the crib there. Okay, 2, 8, 9, 9 looks pretty good. If we wanted to be slightly safer in the crib, we could throw away, say, 8 king, but I think this is okay. The jack is not the best. And we'll lead one of our 9s. Okay. Wow. I don't think I'm that desperate for extra points here. I'm just going to play nice and safe. And okay, 8-2. Opponent might have some 5s then. 8-2, 5-10. 8-2, 2-7. Okay, so 4 points in a very unconventional way. And what's this crib all about? Jack-10. Okay. Getting the long double run. Opponent has caught up quite a lot actually. So there's the combination of scoring very little and opponent getting some good hands. But we've seen so far 8 points. And the 7 could be very promising, well, probably for our opponent, who's shown us an 8 and a 3 already. Well, let's see if they've got a 5. No, they've got 3, 4, 8, and the last card, a 9. Okay, so no flush, so we avoided that one. They do have a nice 7-point hand. We're getting close to our next milestone, which is 96. We need 7 more points for that, so opponent is well behind that. Be nice to do that. How should we do this? 2, 7, 7 jack, ace jack. I think I'll go ace jack here. I suspect this is not quite right, but I think it gives us some nice playability, and we get this 5, which gets us to the milestone, but it's probably quite good for our opponent. So I do worry about this a little bit. I do give our opponent the chance to triple our 2, which I'm not too thrilled about, but go up to, I guess, 24. Have a 3 and an ace. No, they've got double 3 there. Okay, so 2 double 3 and the 10. Some 8 points and quite a few points in the crib with the 5, 6, 7. Computer seems to like ace jack, but maybe ace 4, 6 jack is also pretty good. The scores are fairly close there. Alright. Here I'd quite like to keep the ace to 4 together, but unfortunately it gives us a really bad discard of king 10. So I'm going to throw away maybe 4-10 instead. And wow, I guess keeping 2 to 4 is a better run, but it's pretty tricky. Okay, opponent allows us to hit this long run. Instead, I'm just going to take the pair with the idea that I'm sort of scared of our opponent getting extra value out of it. Okay, opponent really wanted to avoid going to 21, so they played the 3 on our ace instead of going to 21. Yeah, and okay, this is actually something I didn't see at all, so completely blind to throwing away 2-3, which, if you do see it, is a very, very nice thing to do. 6 king, nice and safe. Also, we're getting pretty much to the end of the game. Okay, we have enough points to go out, so I think everything now doesn't matter too much. Our opponent's not getting skunked today, and yeah, we're not really finishing on the play because we're pwn. But maybe our opponent does get some extra points out of us. See what they've got. They've got 4, 5, 6. And they have a jack. No, that is a good game from me. And let's jump back to that missed opportunity. So, missed opportunity is a fairly strong term. It's not so bad. There are many good moves here. We've got ace to 4. We are in position in terms of the scores. So we've just passed our milestone at 96. So opponent is behind that milestone as pawn. We're the dealer. We're down at ace to 4 and 10 king. So I had a peek already at the computer's suggestion, and it suggests something extremely sensible here. But let's just go through the options that I considered to begin with, which was, firstly, when I see ace to 4, the first thing I think is, what happens if I keep ace to 4? In this case, I'm discarding king 10, which is not a very strong discard. It's in fact one of the worst discards. And the reason for that is because the king and the 10 rarely make a combo, and your opponent is rarely throwing away 5s into the crib, so it's not going to be worth too much. As the dealer, you're the one that's going to be throwing away 5s into the crib. So the second option, whenever you have a run of ace to 4 and you want to see what else is available than keeping just the run, we should think about throwing away the top and bottom cards of your run with one of the other cards. So we can throw away ace 10, ace king, 4 10, 4 king. This allows us to keep 3 cards that make a run and also keep a 15 in hand. So it's worth noting that keeping the run 2 to 4 is stronger than keeping ace to 3 for a few reasons, actually. And, so the first reason why keeping 2 to 4 is better is because there are more ways for you to extend your run. You can extend your run if you cut a 5 or an ace, whereas you only extend your run with ace 2 3 if you cut a 4. The second thing is that if you keep 2 3 4, you get to make 15 in more ways with more cuts. So in particular, if you cut an 8, then you get 3 4 8 for 15, and if you cut a 6, you get 2 3 4 6 for 15, whereas you don't get anything like that if you keep ace 2 3. So 2 3 4 is a preferred thing, but it's worth noting that ace does worse in the crib than 4, because the ace belongs to fewer runs. But you're already blocking quite a few runs, so you're not really discarding for an amazing crib. You're just discarding your ace because it does make a few more points sometimes. In this case, I didn't fancy throwing away ace 10 or ace king. I wanted a bit more power in the crib, so I went for 4 10. The 10 is better in the crib than the king, because the 10 belongs to more runs. And so that just left me with ace 2 3 king, which doesn't really play that well, to be honest. Why is that? It's because the hand, let's go through some scenarios. So what are popular hands for our opponent? Well, probably a 5 with lots of 10s, say. Well, how would that play out? If our opponent plays a 10, then we might start with an ace, and if our opponent plays a 5, then we play our king, which, if you can imagine, that takes us up to 26, and it leaves us with 2 3 in hand, and maybe it leaves our opponent with a couple of 10s in hand. After we play our king to make it 26, if our opponent has another 5, then they'll get 2 points for the 31. But if they just say go, then we have to play out our 2 and 3, which sounds like it gets us some points. We get 1 extra point for the 31, and of course 1 point for our opponent saying go. So we get 2 points, but our opponent gets to play out 2 cards. So potentially if they kept a pair of 10s or a pair of any other cards that are bigger than 5, they'd get an extra 2 points and 1 for go. So let's assume that they're not a pair. Then our opponent's getting at least 1 point, and we got 2 points out of that exchange, which for the play is not very good. You want to be getting more than 1 extra point than your opponent as the dealer on the play. That's the going rate is something like 1.5 extra points is would be good, or about 60% extra. So if your opponent scores 2, then you'd quite like to score let's say 4 or 5. Well, I guess that would be 100% or 150% more points. But if your opponent scores 1 and you score 2, then that's only 1 extra point. You want to be scoring like at least 1.5 extra points or 2 extra points. You want as a sort of minimum for a good play out. And you do get a much better play out if you keep 2, 3, 4. If we run through the same scenario, say our opponent plays 10, we play, let's say, a 2, our opponent plays another 10, and is it that much better? I don't think it's that much better, actually. We play our 3 to make it 25, and our opponent plays 5, gets 1 point for the go. We play our 4, opponent plays 10, we play our king, and we get 1 point for go. So it's all square, 1 point each, which is very good for the pawn. If instead we mix things up a little bit, if our opponent plays 10 and we played our own 10, opponent plays a 10, it's possible that we could trap a 5 with the 3, 4, but it's not so likely because we have to, if our opponent has, let's say, has 3 10s and a 5, they play out maybe 2 10s to begin with, and they're left with 10, 5. We've got 2, 3, 4. Opponent could just avoid it by sort of playing out their 5 to begin with, which is a rare play, so don't think we're too worried about that. Yeah, maybe we do end up being able to trap it a little bit. Anyway, yeah, so if on the second time round we could play our 2. If our opponent doesn't play the 5, then they play a 10, then we get to trap the 5. But if they do play the 5 on the 2, which is actually a pretty good play a lot of the time, if your opponent plays a 2 and you need to offload one of your 5s, it's a good opportunity to do so. Anyway, these were sort of some tangents about the playability. From my experience having ace 2, 3, the ace doesn't help you so much when you've already got all these low cards. The 4 allows you a little bit more control on the play. Maybe trying to prove that by playing against 5 with lots of 10 hands doesn't really show that very well. There are lots of other hands that are very common and where the 4 really shows itself. But I think that the thing that I really missed in this hand was the ability to discard 2, 3. So what does this do? Well, 2, 3 is an excellent pair of cards to throw into the crib. It's a 5 total, and in this case, it allows us to keep quite a few points in hand. Ace, 4, 10, king. It's already 4 points. It improves to 6 points a lot of the time. And 2, 3 in the crib improves to runs in many cases, and creates lots of 15s with your opponents discarding some random 10s. It also doesn't play too badly. We keep 2 10s and ace and a 4, so we've got a fairly sparse texture, and we cover a lot of different numbers. So we get to jump or we get to stay same a lot of the time. So if our opponent leads a 10, we get to go ace or 4 and give our opponent a tough choice about whether they play out their 5 immediately or save it for later. So that's always something that I need to keep in my mind. When you see the run ace to 4, always think about being able to discard the 2, 3 out of the middle of the run. So that's the takeaway from this one. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.